"Sir, we're gonna need you to come with us." Malik turned his head slowly. "I'm sorry. This row's restricted. There's been some mix-ups. Can we see your ticket?" Malik lifted his phone again, held it up steady, scanned at the door. Family seating. Third row, center left. The taller guard didn't even glance at the screen. "We've had trouble with the system. This section's for credentialed guests only. There's seating in the back." A beat passed. Malik didn't blink. "I'm a Marine. My son's graduating. I'll be sitting right here." The shorter guard's jaw tightened. "It's not about that, sir. We just need the space." "You had it when I got here," Malik said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was full. Two women nearby had stopped talking. A teenager 2 rows back was quietly filming. The air shifted. "You can sit somewhere else," the taller one repeated. "Let's not escalate this." "Then don't," Malik said.
You're listening to Cobi Tells. We don't just tell, we nourish.
Malik Owens parked in the farthest row of Cypress Valley University's South Lot. Not because he had to, but because he preferred the quiet. He didn't like crowds, never had. Not even when they clapped for him. Especially not when they stared. The old Chevy Impala purred to a stop beneath a faded flagpole. He shut off the engine and sat for a moment, both hands resting on his knees, as if preparing for something more dangerous than a ceremony. In the passenger seat beside him, a folded program. On the dashboard, a faded sticker, Semper Fi. He reached into the glove box and pulled out a small, laminated photo, worn at the edges, creased down the middle. His wife, gone 2 years now, cradling Jallen as a newborn. She was smiling. Jallen was screaming. Malik traced the outline of her face with his thumb and slipped the photo into the inside pocket of his marine dress blues. He opened the door. Heat spilled in. His boots hit the asphalt with a muted thud. Malik had never believed in dressing to impress. But this uniform wasn't about display. It was about precision, purpose. The creases in his sleeves were sharp enough to draw blood. The buttons gleamed. His medals were subtle. His posture was not. He walked with intent, past sun-drenched campus buildings and clusters of families gathered near the auditorium entrance. Most were in floral dresses, khaki shorts, linen shirts, sunglasses and laughter, folding fans, noise. He passed through them like a current through water. Not disruptive, just noticed. A young volunteer with a clipboard stopped him at the entrance. "Sir, ticket please?" Malik showed his phone. The QR code flashed green under the scanner. "Third row, center left," the kid said. "Family seating." Malik gave a quiet nod. "Thank you." Inside the hall, the air was cooler but still buzzing with sound. Programs rustled. Kids giggled. Someone spilled a drink. The overhead lights made the polished floor shine like a gym before game day. The stage was already set. Gold and blue banners, faculty lined up in robes, a university seal the size of a small car. He moved toward his row. As he walked, people looked. Some did a double take. Others gave him that tight-lipped smile you give to someone you want to acknowledge but not engage. One woman leaned to her husband and whispered something. Her eyes flicked to his uniform, then away. Malik kept moving. He reached his row, nodded to the family already seated at the end, and took his place. Third chair in. Just like the ticket said. His knees didn't bounce. His hands stayed flat. Eyes forward. On the stage, a woman with a headset gestured to the band. The opening chords of Pomp and Circumstance rang out. The crowd stirred. Phones came out. Applause rippled. Graduates began their procession down the aisles. Twin lines of gowns and honor cords and nervous smiles. Malik scanned the faces until he saw him. Jallen. Tall. Focused. Chin up. Just like his mother when she walked with intention. Malik didn't wave. Didn't smile. Just watched. The anthem followed. The entire auditorium rose. Hands to hearts. Malik stayed still. He didn't need to raise a hand to show respect. His presence, his silence, that was the salute. But even before the last note faded, Two men in black polos and khaki cargo pants were already moving down the side aisle. Earpieces, radios on hips, purpose in their stride. Security. They didn't hesitate. Stopped right at Malik's row. The shorter one leaned in. "Sir, we're gonna need you to come with us." Malik turned his head slowly. "I'm sorry. This row's restricted. There's been some mix-ups. Can we see your ticket?" Malik lifted his phone again. Held it up steady. Scanned at the door. Family seating. Third row, center left. The taller guard didn't even glance at the screen. "We've had trouble with the system. This section's for credentialed guests only. There's seating in the back." A beat passed. Malik didn't blink. "I'm a Marine. My son's graduating. I'll be sitting right here." The shorter guard's jaw tightened. "It's not about that, sir. We just need the space." "You had it when I got here," Malik said. His voice wasn't loud, but it was full. Two women nearby had stopped talking. A teenager 2 rows back was quietly filming. The air shifted. "You can sit somewhere else," the taller one repeated. "Let's not escalate this." "Then don't," Malik said. The moment held. A woman next to him, older, pale-skinned, dressed in green, leaned slightly and whispered, "Don't let them move you." Malik nodded once. Didn't say a word. Didn't break eye contact with the guard. This wasn't new. Not really. He'd been asked to move before. In boardrooms. In waiting rooms. In airport lounges. It never shouted. It never announced itself. It came in polite tones and phrases like, "Just a misunderstanding" or "wrong section." But the message was always the same. "You don't belong here." The two guards didn't move. Neither did Malik. They stood over him like a thundercloud that hadn't decided whether to break. The taller one shifted his weight. The shorter one touched the mic clipped to his collar, thumb hovering. The aisle wasn't wide, but the air between them felt thick, like a border being tested. People were beginning to notice. Not everyone, but the ones close enough to feel the silence deepen. They knew. A man 2 rows back lowered his camera slowly. A woman stopped mid-laugh, eyes flicking toward the aisle. A student leaned over and whispered to her friend. The atmosphere began to coil. The guards didn't shout. They didn't threaten. They just hovered. And hovering, in its own way, said everything. "Sir," the taller one said again, softer this time, "let's not turn this into a problem." Malik kept his gaze fixed on the stage. "You already did." His voice wasn't loud, but it was enough. The shorter guard stepped forward, now blocking the aisle fully. "This section is for credentialed families and faculty. We were told there's an issue with your seat." Malik didn't blink. "I showed my ticket at the door. It was scanned, verified. I was sent here. We're just following up," the taller one added. "Sometimes things get misassigned." "Sometimes," Malik replied. "People assume things they shouldn't." There was no mistaking the meaning. The woman 2 seats away from him, silver-haired, green blouse, sat a little straighter, watching closely now. Behind them, a young man tapped his friend and mouthed, "What's going on?" The guards didn't budge. "We've got extra seats in the back," the taller one said, his voice still coated in professional detachment. "You'll be more comfortable there." Malik turned his head just slightly. "Comfort isn't the issue." A pause. The shorter one looked irritated. "Sir, this is your last warning." That word, warning, it wasn't said loud, but it dropped like weight. Malik's reply came with steel. "Is it? Then let's see what happens next." For a heartbeat, no one breathed. The tension stretched. The hum of the auditorium dulled beneath it. The shorter guard's hand hovered near his belt. Not on a weapon, but close enough to make a point. Malik didn't flinch. "I've been asked to leave rooms before, by people with more rank than you. I didn't then either." That changed things. Not just for the guards, but for everyone watching. The man with the camera raised it again, this time slowly, deliberately. Across the aisle, a teenage girl hit record on her phone without breaking eye contact. The guards could feel the shift too. "Look," the taller one said, lowering his voice even more. We were just told there was a mistake with seating. We don't want to escalate this." "You already escalated it," Malik replied. Another beat passed. Then came the sound that cracked the moment wide open. Footsteps. Not fast, not loud, just purposeful. From the far end of the hall, one man stood. Then another. Different directions, different angles, plain clothes, no coordination, but unmistakable presence. 6 men, quiet, upright, alert. They didn't huddle. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Malik didn't turn. He didn't need to. He knew. They had arrived. The guards looked around, noticed them one by one. Faces they hadn't seen before, but eyes that carried weight, posture that carried memory. Then, from the center aisle, a man stepped forward. Tall, salt and pepper beard, black coat, calm gaze. He didn't rush. He didn't raise his voice. "Is there a reason this gentleman is being asked to move from his assigned seat?" he asked clearly. The shorter guard blinked. "Sir, we have this under control." "No," the man said. "You don't." It wasn't a threat. It was truth. 3 more men stood behind him. No formation, no orders, just unity. The kind that doesn't need choreography. The air changed. It wasn't just about a seat anymore. It hadn't been for a while. The auditorium was full, yet no one was really watching the stage anymore. All eyes had drifted here, to the 3rd row, to the man who wouldn't move, and to the quiet line of figures now anchoring the space around him. "I don't care what mix-up your list says," the man continued. "This man is where he belongs. You're the ones who aren't." The shorter guard glanced at his partner, then at the crowd. For the first time, he looked unsure. A few claps rose from somewhere in the back. Not loud, but real. Then another voice from the bleachers. "Let him stay." Someone else. "He's got every right." It wasn't a chant. It wasn't a protest. It was a slow groundswell. The man in the black coat gave the final word. Let him watch his son graduate. With dignity. Or walk away and explain why you didn't. This time the guards didn't reply. The taller one nodded once, tight and tense. The shorter one hesitated, then backed off. They walked away without another word. Malik remained seated, back straight, hands folded. Still, the men who stood didn't sit immediately. They waited, just a beat longer, just enough to make sure the message landed. Malik didn't move, didn't speak. The names being read from the stage blurred into background static, each round of applause distant like waves hitting someone else's shore. He sat with his back straight, his palms resting gently on his thighs, and his eyes forward, but his mind was elsewhere entirely. 15 years earlier, Fallujah. It didn't come back in flashes. It wasn't noise and blood and sudden screaming. No, came in detail, in sequence, in fragments so clear they felt recent. The mission had been simple, at least on paper. Routine sweep, secure the perimeter, return before sunset. A textbook op. Malik had been a gunnery sergeant then. Calm under pressure, cool in chaos. He remembered joking with his men over bad instant coffee and sun-baked ration packs. And then the road exploded. The IED hit their second Humvee dead center, sending the rear axle skyward like it had been kicked by a god. The fireball bloomed so fast it didn't even seem real. Dust filled the valley. Screams followed. Malik had rolled instinctively, dirt grinding into his face, his throat, his ears. The first thing he did was count. Voices, movements, anyone still breathing. The second thing he did was move. Toward the blast. Toward the noise. He found Creed first, half buried, one leg pinned under what used to be a seat frame. Blood soaked through his thigh. He was barely conscious. "You still with me?" Malik asked. Creed coughed. "Define with." That was enough. Malik dragged him out by the straps of his vest, ignoring the bullets stitching the sand around them. Another man, Soto, crawled alongside, covering their backs. They moved like a machine. No orders, just survival. But then came the second scream. Davis, pinned beneath the hood of the lead truck, engine block collapsed over his leg. His mouth moved fast, too fast. Panic. I'm good. I'm good, leave me. No, you're not, Malik growled. He ran straight through the kill zone. No cover. No pause. No hesitation. He reached the truck, shoved his hands under the twisted metal, and pushed. His ribs screamed. His back locked. For a moment, nothing budged. Then it shifted. Just enough. Davis slid free. They crawled back as a unit. Creed limping, Soto bleeding from his arm, Malik gritting his teeth so hard it cracked a molar. The firefight didn't stop until dusk. And even then, the silence felt unnatural, like the earth was just taking a breath before the next punch. That night, 6 men slept on dirt, alive because one of them refused to leave anyone behind. Malik never spoke about it in detail. He didn't like telling stories where he was the center. He didn't wear his medals. He didn't hang photos on the wall. But the others, they remembered every inch. They didn't forget who'd carried them literally through hell. They didn't forget the man who stood between a Humvee and a funeral. And when they heard what happened in that auditorium, when phones lit up, when texts were sent, when someone simply said, "He's being told to move," they came. No ceremony, no speech, no uniform, just presence. Meanwhile, Jallen stood near the stage, 2 names away from his own. He hadn't seen everything, but he'd seen enough. He saw the guards, how they lingered, how their words tensed the air. He saw the way his father didn't argue, didn't plead, didn't rise. He just remained. Jallen had grown up with fragments of Malik's service. A folded flag in a wooden case, a drawer he wasn't allowed to open, a scar that ran down the back of his father's right shoulder, visible only when he stretched too far reaching for cereal. But Malik didn't talk about it. He didn't glorify it. When Jallen asked, "Was it hard?" Malik had once said, "Hard is what you carry when no one's watching." 12, Jallen didn't get it. At 18, wearing his cap and gown, hearing murmurs ripple through the crowd, he understood. He understood that silence wasn't always surrender, that stillness could be stronger than shouting, and that a man who didn't move wasn't frozen. He was anchored. Jallen's hand gripped the edge of his program. His fingers trembled, but not with fear, with pride. His father had taught him 1,000 things without ever needing to raise his voice. Today, that voice spoke louder than it ever had. One more name, then his. He straightened. Behind him, someone whispered, "Is that his dad?" A girl in a red stole leaned forward, phone in hand, capturing the moment. The room felt heavier now, not in a bad way, but in the way things feel when people start paying attention. Jallen took a deep breath. His name was coming, and he knew what would follow wouldn't be ordinary. The announcer adjusted the mic. Her voice softened, then steadied. Jallen Owens. The pause that followed was not hesitation. It was recognition. Then, the room responded, but not like before. This wasn't polite applause or a scattered cheer. This was weighty, unified, like the room had been holding its breath, and this name finally gave it permission to exhale. Jallen didn't move right away. He heard it, first in the bleachers, then rippling across the hardwood floor, down every row of folding chairs. The sound wasn't just loud. It was deliberate, like the entire crowd had suddenly remembered they were witnesses. He stepped forward. One step, then another. He didn't look for his dad. He didn't have to. That seat in row 3 had been cemented in his memory the moment he saw those guards approach it. Still filled, still upright, still unmoved. His tassel brushed his temple. His gown swayed behind him. The steps to the stage weren't steep, but they felt like ascent, up toward something more than a diploma. He shook the dean's hand, took the scroll, and turned. Malik met his eyes, and for the first time in hours, maybe longer, the corners of his mouth lifted. It wasn't a grin. It wasn't proud. It was quieter than that. It said, "You did exactly what you were meant to do." Jallen's chest tightened. He nodded, barely, then stepped off the stage. But that's when it happened. A second wave. 6 men, still standing, clapping, again. Not in unison this time, but staggered, like they were laying bricks. Each clap landed heavy, like punctuation in a sentence only they could read. The audience followed. Something had changed. People stood without realizing. Mothers clapped with both hands, cheeks streaked with silent tears. Fathers leaned forward, cameras forgotten. The volume wasn't what made it matter. It was the intention. They weren't cheering because a young man finished high school. They were cheering because they'd seen what it took for that man's father to stay seated, and what it cost not to flinch. Jallen walked back down the aisle. Classmates whispered, "That your dad? Who were those guys?" "Bro, that was crazy." Jallen didn't speak. He didn't need to. He just let it hang in the air. The kind of silence that answers louder than words. In the back corner of the gym, a school board official turned to the principal. "Was there an incident?" She didn't respond right away. She was still watching row 3. There was no commotion now, but the echo of one. When the last name was called, the caps flew. Confetti cannons popped. Music blasted from mounted speakers. A dozen balloons bounced off the ceiling. The gym was loud again, but something lingered, something different. The emotional weight of what had happened hadn't gone away. It had just settled into the corners. People smiled. People hugged. But between each burst of joy, there was something else. Respect. Not spoken. Not forced. Just earned. Jallen found Malik outside, near the flagpole. The sun was lower now. Soft gold light caught on his father's medals. Still pinned. Still unshaken. They didn't rush to speak. They just stood in that afterlight, like a truth had been spoken that neither of them had to repeat. Malik broke the silence first. "You all right?" Jallen nodded. "I didn't cry. That's not a weakness. I know. I just didn't." They stood still. Then Jallen asked, "Who were those guys?" Malik turned, slowly, to glance back toward the gym. "They're the kind of men who only stand up when it matters." Jallen looked too. The 6 SEALs were still visible, gathered loosely near the side exit. Not talking to anyone. Not needing to. "They didn't say a word," Jallen murmured. "They didn't have to." A silence followed, this one easier. Then Jallen said, "I almost walked off that stage when I saw them talking to you." Malik turned fully. "I know." Jallen added, "I thought if you weren't there. But I was." Jallen nodded. "Yeah, you were." Then came a beat. "What you did, not getting up. That meant more than you'll ever know." Malik placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "It wasn't about standing," he said. "It was about not standing down." Jallen held his gaze. "I want to be like that." "You already are," Malik replied. "Now go pick where you want dinner. You earned it." The sun was beginning to set, casting long amber shadows across the blacktop of the parking lot. Families still milled around. Some laughing, others posing for photos, arms full of bouquets and helium balloons. But from Malik and Jallen, the noise had faded into a soft hum, like waves on a distant shore. They didn't rush. They didn't speak. Just walked, side by side, step for step. When they reached the old Dodge Charger, Jallen paused by the passenger door. His fingers traced a thin, jagged scratch beneath the handle. "This wasn't here last time I saw it." Malik smiled faintly. "Your mother hit it with her bike handle. Then blamed the neighbor's kid." Jallen chuckled. "She would have been screaming the loudest today." Malik nodded. "And retaking every photo, till the lighting was perfect." They got in. The door closed with a solid thunk, muffling the outside world. Inside the car it was dim and still. The kind of still that feels intentional. The kind that says, "Now we talk." Jallen glanced over. "You didn't say anything. When they came up to you." Malik didn't look at him. His hands rested on the wheel. "No," he said. "Why?" Malik exhaled slowly. "Because stillness is sometimes louder than any speech, especially when people expect you to break." Jallen let that settle. The car ticked softly in the cooling heat. "But what if no one stood up?" he asked. "Then I'd still be sitting." Jallen raised an eyebrow. "Even if they made a scene?" "They already did," Malik said calmly. "But I didn't need to join it." There was a beat of silence. Sometimes, Malik continued, you don't need to prove anything. You just need to not move. And that tells the story by itself. Jallen leaned back, staring at the roof of the car. I almost walked off stage. When I saw them standing near you, Malik turned to him. But you didn't. Jallen nodded. Because you didn't. Malik gave a slight smile. Then we both did the right thing. They sat with that. Outside, a family posed beside a truck wrapped in banners. A grandfather held up a sign with a cartoon version of his grandson in a cap and gown. Nearby, a girl clutched her diploma and cried into her mom's arms. I didn't know silence could carry so much weight, Jallen said. It always has, Malik replied. You just have to be quiet enough to notice. He reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a small, worn photo. Jallen recognized it. His mother holding him as a baby, Malik in uniform beside her, smiling in a way he hadn't in years. I carried this to deployments, to the hospital, to this graduation, Malik said. Not for luck, for grounding. Jallen took it gently, running his thumb along the crease down the middle. She would have tackled the guards herself. And lectured me afterward for not speaking up, Malik added. They both laughed softly. Then Malik looked over. You asked why I didn't speak up. Jallen nodded. Because I've spent a lifetime earning the right not to, Malik said. And today, they saw that. But more importantly, you saw that. Jallen's face softened. Yeah, I did. Malik started the engine. The Charger hummed low, steady, like it always had. Jallen buckled in. So, now what? We drive. You picking dinner? Malik side-eyed him. You think I sat through all that to let you not buy me Waffle House? Jallen grinned. Fair enough. The car pulled out of the lot. The school faded behind them, brick and banners melting into the warm evening light. But what had happened inside? The stillness, the tension, the unspoken defiance, wouldn't fade. Not for the guards, not for the crowd, not for the boy who walked the stage, and not for the man who never stood. Inside the gym, long after the last family had left, a custodian swept up confetti near the stage. In the third row, a single plastic chair remained out of line with the others. Slightly turned, slightly worn, but still standing, still there. Everyone would remember something different about that day. Some would remember the name. Some would remember the clapping. Some would remember the 6 men who stood. But most would remember the silence. And how one man, by simply staying seated, shifted the room, protected his ground, and passed down a strength that needed no introduction. The road out of town was quiet. The Charger hummed low beneath them, windows down just enough to let in the warm dusk air. The sun had dropped below the trees, leaving a long orange glow smeared across the sky. It felt like the kind of evening you could fold yourself into. Quiet, slow, complete. Inside the car, the silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was full, lived in, earned. Jallen rested his head against the window, fingers loosely gripping the photo still in his lap. His mother holding him, his father in uniform beside them, younger, but still unmistakably the same man who had sat unmoving today while the whole room tried to figure out what to do with his presence. He didn't look over, but he spoke. That chair's never leaving me. Malik kept his eyes on the road. Good. I mean it, Jallen said. It's burned in. Malik nodded once. It was supposed to be. Jallen turned toward him, studying his face in the shifting light. You think anyone else saw it like I did? They might not know what they saw, Malik said. But they'll feel it later. Some moment, days or weeks from now, they'll remember the way the air changed. And they'll understand. He shifted slightly in his seat. The car creaked beneath him. The echo always comes after the noise, he added. Always. Jallen thought about that, then asked, Were you scared? Malik glanced over. No, not even a little. Not of them, he said. What I was afraid of was wasting the moment. Jallen frowned. What do you mean? I've been in rooms before where silence was the only power I had left, Malik said. If I gave that up, in front of you, Then what did I even bring you there to see? Jallen looked back out the window. They passed a church with a flickering sign. Speak with grace or don't speak at all. Jallen pointed. You write that. Malik smirked. I live it. A beat passed. Then Jallen said, when they walked toward you, I didn't know what to do. I felt this heat in my chest, like I was going to explode. But you didn't. I wanted to. But you didn't, Malik repeated. Because you watched. Jallen nodded slowly. Yeah, I watched. Malik adjusted the mirror. The light caught his jaw, the same line Jallen had inherited. You know why they backed off? Malik asked. Jallen shrugged. Because of the others? No, Malik said. Because they realized something they couldn't say out loud. That they were already outclassed. Jallen raised an eyebrow. Even before the seals stood up? Especially before. They turned onto a smaller road. Ahead, the neon sign of a Waffle House flickered faintly against the night. Jallen smiled. You sure about this place? Malik grinned. You want fine dining or memories? Jallen chuckled. Waffles it is. They pulled into the lot. Malik didn't move right away. His hand rested on the gearshift, but his eyes stayed ahead. There's something I want you to remember, he said. Jallen listened. There will be days when someone will try to move you. From a table. From a room. From a moment you belong in. And they'll do it with rules or smiles or soft threats that sound polite. Jallen stared ahead. But the moment you believe them, the moment you give up your seat, you're not just moving from a chair. You're surrendering the echo. Jallen turned. The what? The echo, Malik repeated. The thing that stays after you're gone. He tapped his chest. They didn't leave the chair behind. They left the weight of who sat in it. Jallen nodded, slowly. So what do I do when it happens to me? You stay seated, Malik said. Not for pride. Not for drama. Just because you know exactly who you are. They stepped out of the car together. The night was cool now, but not cold. The kind of night that makes you notice the warmth in the people beside you. Malik opened the door to the diner. Jallen followed. They didn't need to say another word. And miles behind them, in the quiet of a dark gym, the janitor finally stacked the last row of chairs. All but one. Row 3. Seat 4. It had held. And for just a second he paused, just long enough to feel it. The impression left behind. Sometimes, silence doesn't end when it's over. Sometimes it begins there.
Thank you for listening. If the story moved you, let it move someone else. Share.